This is CNN, home of fake news.
I just think when it comes to Kellyanne's and the Trump White House more broadly as it relates to the Russia investigation, I think the facts sometimes don't comport with what the argument was. The idea that this investigation is not about Russia and Russia's meddling in the election, that's exactly what it's about. I mean, you can believe it's a hoax. But
last time we spoke, Senator, I asked you if you had actually seen evidence of collusion between the Trump campaign and the Russians, and you said to me, and I'm quoting you now, you said, not at this time. Has anything changed since we spoke last?
Well, no, it hasn't.
But it is ostensibly, no one questions that. The other thing is, she said to you, Chris, this isn't, tell me how it affects national security. I mean, again, I don't think it's a partisan statement in any way, shape, or form to say if a foreign government is actively meddling in our election, which is a fact that the FBI, the CIA, the NSA, the Office of the Director of National Intelligence all unanimously agree on, with the goal of helping one candidate and hurting another, which again is something that all those intelligence agencies agree on, that is something that we as citizens would accept that is having to do with our national security. So, one other quick thing. Kellyanne repeatedly said that we here at CNN don't cover, 6% of people care about the Russia story, and yet we devote a lot of time to it. My pushback on that would be Donald Trump thinks about it a lot. And how do I know that? Because I look at his Twitter feed, and his Twitter feed is the direct line into what he is thinking and doing at any one moment. And you go through that Twitter feed and you get a ton of Russia, a ton of stuff about the media and how bad we are. What you don't get is much on opioids. You'll occasionally get something about the economy, occasionally something about immigration. But I will tell you, and I would say to anyone who supports Donald Trump, go look at his Twitter feed. I'm not fooling you. Russia and the media are what he spends his mind share on.
Rick. Yeah, I couldn't disagree more with Chris on this fact that he makes the comment, you made the comment, Chris, that this is all about Russia and its interference in the election. Okay, that's great, but most of the media is not talking about Russia and its interference in the election. What they're talking about is any role the president or any of his people may have had in that. So that's a piece of it. I would agree with that there's a piece of the story is how much, or if at all, did Donald Trump or any of his network of people have with what the Russians were doing. But very little is about actually what the Russians did and how it impacted the election. So you can make the case, this is all about the Russians' interference with the election. But no, really, it's all about what did Trump have to do with the Russian interference in the election. And that's where the administration gets a little, hair on fire.
I get why they're upset about it, Rick, but here's the problem with the suggestion. There is a reason. The why matters here. Why? Because that's what's coming out of the committees.
I haven't seen any stories of any note about what Russia actually did, but I've seen lots of leaks about whether Trump or some people.
Every time we get information about how it was done, it comes out immediately. And it's okay to say, boy, there's a lot of attention on the collusion part. It's fine. What I wonder...
It's also true.
What I wonder if it's okay is the idea of blaming us for caring about this. It sounds absurd when I hear it, Rick.
Chris,
look,
that's just
Kellyanne, who is smarter than everybody on television right now, question whether or not it's even a national security issue.
What they're blaming for is the preoccupation with that to the exclusion of everything else.
But it's not to the exclusion of everything else.
Well, it is
That's bogus, and it's bogus on two levels.
Go back and look at the coverage that the media has.
You go back and watch my show, and you look at it in the morning, and you tell me that this is all we cover. And I'll buy you dinner wherever you want. The second thing is, to Liz's point, the president focuses on this more than anybody else. So obviously it must matter. It must. He does, and we respect the viewership, and we find it to be very important. He's always welcome to come on the show as well as watch it. Chris.
No, I actually think the senator, it's a fair point that this, I do think, look, what do we know, if you believe the intelligence agencies, which I do because I have no reason not to. What we know is they unanimously agree that Russia meddled in this election to aid Donald Trump and to hurt Hillary Clinton.
Does intelligence exist that can definitively answer the following question: whether there were improper contacts between the Trump campaign and Russian officials.
We did not include any evidence in our report, and I say our, that's NSA, FBI, and CIA with my office, the Director of National Intelligence, that had anything that had any reflection of collusion between members of the Trump campaign and the Russians. There was no evidence of that included in our report.
I understand that, but does it exist?
Not to my knowledge.
Okay, so you mentioned that you know that there was a Donald Trump meeting, and the other things have been reported about
Don Jr., but yeah.
Don Jr. meeting. What has been reported, and Chris, you said you were going to answer this, you didn't. What has been reported over the last 3 months about Russian collusion that had nothing to do with Trump?
Russian meddling in the election that had nothing to do with Trump? No, you're right. I mean, but I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm saying we know much more that has been reported there, but I don't.
Which was my point.
I guess
that's what's come out.
I don't get why that. Is it? We don't know how big the picture is. I think it's uniquely possible that it's a much bigger picture, and that the Trump Don Jr. meetings and those sorts of things, Mike Flynn, whatever that is 10% of it. But my point is, we don't know because we don't have the full picture. The only person who's anything close to the full
that's the whole
picture
point. If
is Bob Mueller.
If the Trump
so we're
piece,
trying to find out the full.
No, I understand, but if the Trump
picture.
piece is, let's take your number. If the Trump piece is 10%,
sure,
of the story, well, of what the Russian interference with the election was, and 90% is everything else. We're not hearing anything about the 90%.
But we don't know.
And
it could be 90% the other way. My point is, we're trying to unearth as much as we can. I mean, that you may not accept.
I
that.
hear you.
That's okay. But I mean, I think we're trying to do what we can. I don't know if it's 90 or 10. We're just trying to take the facts as they come to us and report on them.
Right.
It's hard for me to say this is 80% of it, you have to pay attention to it 80%, and this is 20%. Because frankly, candidly, we don't know.
Right now, it's zero on the other side. That's the point.
But Senator, this is more cleverness than it is clarifying. We're dealing with an unknown. So to ask us, well, how do you define the unknown? We don't know, but you must cover it when it is relevant. And that's really what the job is that these are important questions.
Well,
when you learn information, you get into it. But I want to ask you about something else.
Hold on, just one final point, then you can ask me whatever you want. If this is the extent of the Russian collusion, what's been reported of a few meetings.
But we have no reason to know that.
If this is the extent of all the Russian collusion in the election, we don't have much of a story here.
Well,